Have you ever wondered why you were born exactly now? Not 500 years ago, when you could have been an explorer discovering continents. Not in the future, when humanity will have solved its deepest problems. But now, in this precise moment of history, at this chaotic crossroads between the collapse of the old and the birth of something completely new, while you watch the news and feel the world crumbling, while you experience a loneliness that previous generations didn't know, while you navigate a reality where technology has surpassed human wisdom, something inside you whispers that it's no coincidence, that your soul chose this specific moment to be here, this feeling you have, that strange nostalgia for eras you never lived, that sensation of being out of place in your own time, is not accidental. It's the mark of what the ancients called a soul on a mission. For centuries, the deepest spiritual traditions have spoken of souls that choose specific moments in history to incarnate, not by chance, but by necessity. But modern society has made you believe you're just a biological accident, a random combination of genes and circumstances that ended up existing in the 21st century by pure statistical chance. The problem isn't just that you live in a confusing era, it's that you don't understand why you're here precisely now. Carl Jung wrote about the collective unconscious, that invisible network that connects all human souls across time and space. According to Jung, we're not born in random eras, but we respond to specific archetypal callings. Your soul felt the vibration of this historical moment from before birth and responded to the call like a bell that resonates only with certain frequencies. But modern materialistic culture has disconnected you from this understanding, leaving you with the feeling of being a temporal castaway, someone who arrived at the wrong moment in history. This disconnection from your temporal purpose generates what we could call existential dyschrony, the feeling of being temporally displaced, as if you were an actor who arrived at the wrong theater. You feel nostalgia for the Renaissance, fantasize about the 60s, idealize eras you only know from books and movies. But that nostalgia isn't escape, it's recognition. Your soul remembers having been in other forms, in other moments. And part of you knows you've chosen this time for a reason your conscious mind doesn't yet fully understand. Each era of humanity has had its specific souls. Great explorers weren't born in times of peace, but when the world needed to be expanded. Revolutionaries didn't appear in moments of tranquility, but when social structures required transformation. Renaissance artists didn't arrive by accident during European cultural awakening, but were summoned by the historical moment itself. And you, dear observer, weren't born in this era of transition by chance. You were born because this specific moment in human history requires exactly the type of soul you are. The first sign that your soul chose this moment is your discomfort with the present. If you feel completely comfortable with the current state of the world, you're probably not one of the summoned. But if you feel deep unrest, a sensation that something fundamental is wrong with how we live, if you perceive the superficiality of modern relationships, the emptiness of consumerism, the spiritual disconnection of society, then you're feeling what you're supposed to feel. Your discomfort isn't a defect. It's your spiritual radar working correctly. This specific era, this moment between approximately 1980 and 2040, is what spiritual historians call the Great Transition, the moment when humanity must choose between consciously evolving or collapsing under the weight of its own creations. And the souls that chose to be born during this period didn't do so to live comfortable and predictable lives. They came to be catalysts, bridges, translators between the world that's dying and the world that's being born. That's why you feel so intensely affected by global suffering, why you can't simply disconnect and live a normal life, why you feel a responsibility you can't rationally explain. The second sign is your conflicted relationship with technology. You're not a Luddite, but you're also not a blind techno-optimist. You see both the transformative potential and the devastating danger of our digital tools. This dual perspective isn't confusion, it's wisdom. You were born at the exact moment when humanity must learn to consciously integrate technology with spirituality, the artificial with the natural, the virtual with the real. Your soul knew this would be this era's central challenge and prepared to navigate it. The ancient Egyptians spoke of the time of chaos that always precedes a new cosmic order. Hindus call it the end of Kali Yuga. The Mayans calculated that this specific period would be crucial for human evolution. No matter which tradition you consult, all point to this era not being just any moment in history, but a cosmic inflection point. And your soul, which has traversed multiple incarnations and experiences, specifically chose to be present during this inflection point. Your third sign is what we could call activated ancestral memory. You feel an inexplicable connection to ancient wisdom. You're drawn to archetypal symbols. You have strangely vivid dreams about past eras. You experience synchronicities that seem like messages from a higher intelligence. This isn't New Age fantasy. It's your soul remembering why it's here. You've brought with you fragments of wisdom from other eras because this historical moment needs that wisdom integrated with modern understanding. The fourth sign is your extreme sensitivity to collective suffering. You can't watch the news without feeling physical pain. You can't observe environmental destruction without experiencing anguish that goes beyond rational concern. You can't witness social injustice without feeling an internal call to act that transcends your own interests. This hypersensitivity isn't a burden, it's your spiritual navigation system. Your soul came equipped with extra-developed senses because it needs to precisely perceive where healing is required. But here comes the transformative insight that changes everything. You weren't born in this era to save the world as your ego conceives it. You're not the protagonist of a cosmic superhero movie where your mission is to dramatically rescue humanity. That messianic fantasy is the spiritual ego trying to convert your sacred purpose into a project of personal grandeur. Your true mission is much more subtle, deep, and powerful. You were born to be a frequency translator. Your work isn't to change the outer world, but to transmute inner energies. Not to convince the masses, but to embody a specific vibration that helps the human morphogenetic field evolve. Like a radio station that tunes invisible frequencies and makes them audible. Your soul came equipped to capture future energies and anchor them in the present through your own internal transformation. Every time you choose compassion over cynicism, every time you keep your heart open despite pain, every time you refuse to completely adapt to modern superficiality, you're performing an act of alchemical transmutation that affects the quantum field of human consciousness. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to lead mass movements. You don't need to have millions of followers. Your impact is morphogenetic. You change the invisible structure of reality simply by being who you authentically are. Quantum physicists have demonstrated that conscious observation affects reality at the subatomic level. Masaru Emoto's experiments showed how human consciousness influences the molecular structure of water. HeartMath Institute studies revealed that one person's coherent emotional states can influence another person's electromagnetic field at a distance. Your soul chose to be born now because this is the moment when humanity is scientifically discovering what spiritual traditions always knew. That consciousness and matter are interconnected in ways we're barely beginning to understand. Your fifth sign is what shamans would call the gift of the seer. You see patterns where others see chaos, perceive connections where others see separation. Feel history's underlying pulse when others only see random events. This systemic perception capacity didn't develop by accident. Your soul cultivated it across multiple existences because it knew that in this era it would be crucial to have people capable of seeing the forest while others get lost among the trees. The sixth sign is your paradoxical relationship with time. You simultaneously feel that you arrived late to everything important and that you arrived early to something that hasn't begun yet. This distorted temporal perception isn't a psychological defect. It's a characteristic of souls that exist simultaneously in multiple temporal lines. Part of you has already lived the future you're helping to create, which is why you sometimes have that strange sensation of cosmic déjà vu, as if you were remembering something that hasn't happened yet. Your seventh and final sign is what the ancient Greeks called kairos, the perception of qualitative time versus quantitative time. You don't just live in chronological time, chronos, but you're especially sensitive to moments charged with meaning, to synchronicities, to instants where the veil between dimensions becomes thinner. Your soul chose to be born now because this is a period of intensified kairos, a time where each conscious moment has exponential, transformative potential. Understanding this completely transforms your relationship with your own existence. You're no longer a victim of historical circumstances, but a conscious co-creator of emerging reality. You're no longer a temporal accident lost in a chaotic era, but a transformation agent strategically positioned at the exact moment where your specific contribution can have the greatest impact. Your task isn't to adapt to the world as it is, but to remain faithful to the vision of the world as it can become. Your work isn't to fit into existing structures, but to embody the frequencies that are gestating future structures. Your mission isn't to succeed according to current parameters, but to define new parameters of success based on values that are still emerging. This means your sense of maladjustment isn't a problem to solve, but a characteristic to honor. Your discomfort with normal isn't a personal limitation, but a spiritual compass that keeps you oriented toward what's trying to emerge. Your excessive sensitivity isn't a psychological defect, but a precision instrument tuned to capture frequencies that most people can't yet perceive. The path toward realizing your temporal purpose doesn't involve grand external gestures, but deep internal transformation. It's about developing what we could call multidimensional coherence, the capacity to simultaneously maintain connection with ancestral wisdom, presence in the current moment, and vision of future potential. This is cultivated through practices that honor the three temporal dimensions of your being. Connect with ancestral wisdom through the study of spiritual traditions, perennial philosophies, and teachings that have maintained their relevance across millennia. Not to become a rigid traditionalist, but to access the wisdom library your soul has accumulated. Through multiple existences, anchor your presence in the current moment by developing a contemplative practice that allows you to be a conscious witness of reality without being dragged by the superficial drama of daily events. Meditation, contemplation in nature, conscious art, any practice that allows you to access the inner space where your true being resides. Independent of temporal identifications, nurture your vision of future potential by keeping alive your creative imagination, your capacity to dream alternative realities, your faith in the possibility of both personal and collective transformation, not as escape from present reality, but as conscious connection with the potentialities trying to manifest through you. The beautiful paradox of your temporal existence is that the more deeply you connect with the eternal within you, the more effectively you can serve your specific purpose in this era. The more you transcend your identification with the temporal self, the more clearly you can perceive why your soul chose exactly this moment to be here. Your true contribution to this era won't be what you do, but what you become. It won't be your external productivity, but your internal transformation. It won't be your visible achievements, but your capacity to embody frequencies that others need but don't know how to access. You'll be an invisible beacon whose light helps others remember who they really are, a silent translator who converts apparent chaos into useful information for collective evolution. This understanding frees you from the pressure of having to justify your existence through external successes that satisfy social expectations. It frees you from the anxiety of wasting time or not fulfilling your purpose. It frees you from the fear of not being enough or having been born in the wrong era. Your conscious presence alone in this historical moment is already your most valuable contribution. When you finally accept that you were born exactly when and where you should have been born, that your soul wisely chose this specific moment for a specific mission, that your maladjustment is actually perfect adaptation to a future that's gestating, something fundamental changes in the quality of your existence. You stop resisting your era and begin to dance with it. You stop lamenting not having been born in other times and begin to honor the wisdom of your temporal choice. The world doesn't need you to be someone different from who you are. It needs exactly who you are, with your specific sensitivity, your unique perspective, your particular gifts, at this precise moment in history. You're not too sensitive for this era. This era needs your sensitivity. You're not too deep for this superficial world. This world needs your depth. You didn't arrive too late or too early. You arrived exactly on time for what you came to do. If this message has touched something deep in you, if you've felt recognition in your soul while listening to these words, it's no coincidence. It's confirmation. Your soul is remembering why it chose to be here, in this moment, in this specific incarnation. Share this understanding with others who may also be searching for their place in this extraordinary era. In the comments, tell us which of these signs resonates most with you, which aspects of living in this specific era you find most challenging and most meaningful. Because although each soul has its individual purpose, we all form part of a collective symphony being composed in real time. And your voice, your specific frequency, is an irreplaceable note in this cosmic composition that is transforming human reality forever.